So thank you for the organizers for giving me the opportunity for this beautiful nutrition conference. And today I'll talk regarding the myth busters regarding this nutrition, especially those who are non-dialysis CKD population, which is the largest chunk in the CKD care. Now, when we analyze most common questions we face in our nephrologist office from the patient is, doctor, what should I eat? And believe me, if we analyze our time, then we'll see that in our clinic, hardly 30-40% time goes on either counseling or referring to the patient with the nutritionist. And even they go to the nutritionist at the end before taking the prescription. When they leave the office, they will ask, doctor, I have a list. Can I take this? Can I take that? So there are so many questions, and henceforth the importance. We all know the nutrition is an integral part of the CKD care, because as the CKD progress, and it is evident that there is a huge prevalence of protein energy wasting, and the area which I am focusing on today, near about 50% patients who are non-dialysis are suffering from protein energy wasting. And we did our own survey. In our own study, it was much higher. It was non-published, so I am not shown here. It is roughly 60%. So it is highly prevalent. But the common dietary myths or the confusion among the non-dialysis patients who are CKD are the food quantity, how much they should eat, how much protein they should take. Regarding, there are so many confusions and queries, be whether it is harmful or beneficial regarding fruits, vegetables, fluid intake, spices and the oils, and obviously dining out, whether they can go to the restaurants, they can eat somewhere. So there are so many questions. So with this include, I'll try to cover my talk with first the nutritional challenges in the non-dialysis CKDs, then a clinical case-based discussion, and obviously discuss some nutritional myth. Management issues, I'll discuss some extent, and obviously if Shitadi is here, she'll discuss some of the part. This is a common cartoon we all are familiar with, where it depicted the entire paradigm or etiology, how the CKD and the PEW. It does not need introduction to this august audience. They all know about it. But one thing it is clear, this management of protein energy wasting in CKD is complex, and there is no silver bullet. And there is a multiple areas to look for, and ultimately, if not addressed properly, will land in a protein energy wasting. The challenges are, the protein energy is a complex multifactorial, and fear of dialysis is reflected on the plate. They stop eating. They have a fear of eating everything. So loss of appetite, depression is another point, and there is an unscientific restriction which leads to a lot of problem. So here I am presenting one case, which is a Mr. Aken, who is a 56 years old diabetic with who presented to our clinic with a history of sweating for the last 3 to 4 months. He has a decent fatigue, poor diabetes control, rise in creatinine, and there was no significant medical history in terms of ischemic heart disease. Appetite is okay, but there is some fullness, and there is no history of black stools, and dietary pattern is a non-vegetarian to take about. These are some general vitals which indicates some important points is hypertensive, there is edema, he is anemic, and BMI is lower side 21.9. This is a list of medications where from our point of interest, this patient is on beta blockers, multivitamin, PPI, and the diuretics. Now, if you look at his blood biochemistry, his creatinine has gone up in the last 1 month to 3.1 from 2.2 baseline. He is a bit hyponatremic. There is a very poor glycemic control and serum albumin, which otherwise the emphasis on albumin as a marker of nutrition, though it has came down, but it is some surrogates which gives us some overall idea, is 2.9, indicating his protein energy wasted. He is slightly anemic, hemoglobin 6.4, CRP is high, ferrokinetic study is okay, but there is a slightly iron deficiency and there are protein leak in the urine. So these are the lab reports. But if you encounter the patient nutritionally, then she has shifted to a complete vegetarian diet, eating only boiled vegetables, and extremely worried about dialysis, progressively feeling weak, and lost 3 kgs of the life. The question is how we should address this nutritional issue, how much protein we should allow, how much calorie we should give. These are the things we are going to discuss today. Regarding protein, so we deliberately restricted the protein with the idea, with the educations to my dietitians and all this stuff, that protein restriction has some benefit in pre-dialysis CKD for preservation of CKD. The reason are very well known, because of the reduction of hydrostatic pressure. The restricted protein diet has a to some extent role in the preventing loss of protein. But, and this has been evidenced in multiple studies. Henceforth, there are so many studies and published over the last 2 decades which has shown, and guideline came out, they have all allowed the 0.5 to 0.8 gram protein allowed non-dialysis CKD patients. These are the other benefits in terms of insulin resistance, blood sugar. But if you look at the protein allocation of the protein intake, per capita protein options in all over the world, India falls roughly half of the protein intake what the other part of the world takes. Hence, for the restriction of the protein, which is mentioned in this guideline, whether it is applicable in our country, we need to think for. This gentleman, from protein perspective, has serum albumin low. He was losing 2 grams of the protein. Now, how to calculate the nutrient? We all know that the nutrient calculation has to be done by the adjusted body weight. The gentleman's body weight, adjusted body weight is 68.9. So she requires 57.1 gram of protein. And if you add the 2 gram loss, so roughly 57 grams. But when you analyze the dietary recall, he was taking roughly 34 grams of protein. So this much is a fear for which their proteins are true. Now there is a question of BLPD. We know there are so many data, especially from the India, we have the data on the diabetics. So BLPD is a good option in this patient where we can try to restrict their thing. When the question of calorie comes, the calorie expenditure depends on few factors, that resting basal calories, physical activities, and the thermic dynamic of the food. KDIGO 2020 and give us a guideline that roughly 20 to 35 kilocalories. Now, if you look at this patient, he has a poor diabetic control, he has sedentary, but side by side, he's a moderately protein energy wasted, and there is a muscle wasting. So if we look at the calorie deliberation, we have to deliver roughly 25 to 30 kilocalories, but the recall wise, the patient was taking hardly 22 kilocalories. Phosphorus, patient knows less, so this is better, but phosphorus has a lot of adverse impact in terms of survival and in terms of their decline in the renal functions. This guy has a phosphorus of 5.8 and he has shifted to the vegetarian diet, which has a high phosphorus. So we should be careful regarding prescribing the diet containing the high phosphorus. Regarding salt, earlier KDOQI has a no guideline, but this time they have restricted 2.3 grams. But average Indian salt intake is quite high, roughly 10 grams. And if you go by the geography wise, this is a study which published the north eat the maximum salt, and the eastern part of India, they take roughly 10 grams. Now, question is, do we restrict the salt to 2.3 grams? We have really doubt regarding this statement because there is no robust data which suggests that salt restriction prevent the chronic kidney disease progression. But however, hypertension control and edema, it has a definite role. But hyponatremia is not a good thing in CKD. It also has a mortality risk. Keeping that in mind, we have to be very careful about how much salt we should allocate to this patient. Too much restrictive will be bad. However, giving liberal salt will lead to a poor hypertension control. So my opinion in this regard is we should guide by the urinary salt excretion, and sudden reduction is bad. We have to go slow for understanding how much salt we'll give. To some extent, potassium is very clear cut. Patients are quite fearful. They are quite knowledgeable regarding the potassium. And we know the high and low potassium both is harmful. But only thing which is very important is the right education for the patient regarding which food item contains potassium. Hereby, I want to mention, a lot of people don't know that tea contains a significant amount of potassium because they take multiple cups of tea in a day as a refreshment. So we have to be very careful for restricting potassium in this. So the discussion and understanding your patient, his clinical condition, his understanding regarding CKD nutrition is very, very important. I know that planning a menu nutritional plan for a CKD is so much complex, so many things we need to address, but it is doable provided the patients are educated well, provided we share our knowledge in the right method, and we come in between the patient to understand this thing. So before I end, let me tell you, better nutritional care in the CKD in non-dialysis patients are education and understanding. So breaking the unscientific beliefs and the myths so that patient become more informed. We need a close follow-up system so that we can follow them up to understand their progress or deterioration. And research and innovation is needed to meet the unmet needs for regarding CKD. With this, I would like to end. Thank you very much. So I think I have I finished 30 seconds before. That is
Thank you, sir.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Look, the point is everywhere, the time is the biggest constant, you know, because thank you very much.
Beautiful slide, sir.
Thank you.
So do we have any questions in the chat box or from the audience? So if we don't have, then I will have one for the speaker. Probably one of the important aspect of advice is assessment, which one side doesn't fit all because it's so varied across the patients. Even in the one state of Maharashtra, a patient coming from one corner of Konkan will have dramatically different food habits than somebody coming from Marathwada or Vidarbha. Or so probably assessment and tailored advice will be the key, whether it is about restricting the proteins or phosphorus or potassium. Very good talk, Dr. Gupta. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, sir,
Can you move on? Can you move on to the next?
Let's start.
Yes, ma'am. Please start.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Pratim Sengupta. The main thing is, as we both considered that particular person as a case study, so I'm not sharing any PPT regarding that, but the case considered there. So I have few highlights, few myths and few queries, what we come across during our day-to-day, maybe IPD patient, maybe in my chambers, what we come across. First and foremost, we need to consider the weight of the patient. So that Dr. Sengupta has already highlighted that adjusted body weight has to be taken care of, because a few cases for CKD patients, we need to take the edema-free body weight and adjusted body weight, and depending on that, we need to look into the calorie, whatever is required for that particular patient. So these patients come with edema. So there we have to be very careful while calculating the total calorie intake. And there comes in the anthropometry measurement, because we need to assess the patient thoroughly. So patient is under the impression to start with, when they come to the chamber, maybe to the doctor, maybe to the dietitian, the first thing they stop taking proteins. And because of this, these days, lots of wrong ideas are going around through Google internet-based guidelines. So they stop taking proteins. That is not the correct way. So we need to take proteins, and that we dietitians need to encourage them what kind of protein, what should be the correct source of protein, and what should be taken and in what quantity. So for a CKD patient, depending on the creatinine part of that particular person who was having 3.1 creatinine, so maybe to start with LPD diet from 6.6 to 0.8, and after maybe 1 month or so, we can have a checkup of all the blood parameters. And then if patient is not compliant or patient is not maintaining well, then we can go into VLPD diet. For that VLPD diet, we need to look into 0.3 to 0.4 gram per kg body weight. And along with that, we need to give keto analogs. But keto analogs are pretty expensive, so it's not possible for everyone to have that. It's 1 tablet per 5 kg body weight. So depending on the patient's condition, we need to consider VLPD diet along with whether keto analogs can be given to that patient or not. And that particular patient, as we cater to mainly eastern part of India, as Dr. Sengupta is also practicing here, myself also practicing in the eastern part of, we all are a non-veg eating population. So there we need to look into the phosphorus content of the diet. So considering that, if phosphate levels are elevated, so there we need to make the patient understand that what particular food items needs to be restricted, what are the items needs to be given, and what are the allowance that has to be shared with those patients. And regarding the salt, again, the salt intake depends on the edema, hypertension prevalent with the patient. So patient is having edema, patient is anemic, and at the same time, patient is hypertensive. So their salt restriction has to be there, but patient serum sodium was little on the lower side. So depending on the condition of the patient, depending on that particular situation, we need to escalate, need to share what can be the salt restriction to that patient. And kilocalorie, usually it is guidelines is 25 to 35 kilocalorie per kg body weight, but at the patient is HbA1c on the higher side patient is poorly controlled glycemic control. So in that case, we need to control the total carb, I mean total calorie also, and the total type of carbohydrate which needs to be given to that patient. Patient starts having that, I am having rotis only, but eastern part of India is a rice eating zone. So there we need to make them understand that you can have rice, because one more thing we need to consider, that wheat is have little higher percentage of protein than if you consider rice. So what portion of rice can be given to that patient, that can be explained to that patients. So these are the basic things. We need to escalate to the patient, and for all micronutrients we need to look into, protein we need to look into. So each and every small things, and on a regular interval we need to, for the compliance, we have to check the urea, creatinine, CRP, potassium, sodium. Even we need to see the dietary recall on a regular basis as a dietitian, if whether the particular patient is compliant or not, because patient relatives and everyone is giving wrong ideas. And considering the anemia, so lots of people are under the impression that if I have so much juices of some green leafy vegetables, some vegetable juices and all, that will elevate my anemia. So once a patient is having kidney issues, he or she will have lower level of hemoglobin. So that also we need to look into, and that also we need to counsel them, so that you are supposed to have these and anemia, and what are the, why anemia is there, and what all things you are supposed to take, and what all you should avoid to elevate your hemoglobin level. Thank you so much.